Hi, I'm Dana, and today's video is quite an exciting one because it's my first request from a Patreon member. I think that's quite exciting. So Matthew over on Patreon asked if I could specifically talk about how to be a good ally to autistic people, because we've got Autism Awareness Month coming up and it's the time that loads of neurotypicals suddenly want to talk about autism again and bring up their autistic family members and friends and the like. So I thought it was the perfect topic to do a video about. So thank you for requesting it, and if you want to be able to request videos, you can comment down below, honestly, but you can also pay me to do them on Patreon if you wanted to. It's a promo, it's a self-promo, there you go, you can do it if you want. But getting into the video, I decided to make it easy and come up with 5 different ways that you can be a good autistic ally and just be a better person, okay? If you're neurotypical, I guess if you're neurodivergent in other ways, but let's face it, we mostly get each other. It's mostly for the neurotypicals here, okay? So the first is to educate yourself, but specifically from lived autistic experiences. If you go just like Googling stuff about autism, you're gonna get all sorts of medical articles and files and all sorts of other things that, although they are maybe technically correct in a medical field standpoint, they don't necessarily give you the best view of what it is to be an autistic person going about the world and just living life as a person who is also autistic. Anything that's really too medical or too professional is going to come across with lots of the things that we're deficit in, the things that we can't do, lots of stereotypes, and also often a very singular view of what it is to be autistic and not really fully representing the diversity of the autism spectrum. So I think it's much better, honestly, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this. I know it's kind of controversial, but I think that you're honestly best educating yourself through videos like this, through videos on TikTok, Instagram posts, people's lived experience that they're willing to share on social media of what it means to be autistic for them. And also going for lots of people, every single autistic person is going to have a different experience. Some of them will vary more than others, some autistic people's experiences are a lot like mine. That's what makes my videos so relatable. But also there's a lot of autistic people that are like polar opposites to me and couldn't be more different. And I think it's really important to get those different viewpoints and those different opinions and understandings and experiences. And if you're going to do anything to try and support autistic people or be an ally to autistic people, I think it's educating yourselves from us, from the autistic people. That's the best thing to do. That's the number one for a reason. It means very little to educate yourself if you're not going to put it into practice, though. Once you've learned a bit and educated yourself and tried to figure out a bit of an understanding of what it is to be autistic as much as you can as a non-autistic person, that's where you've got to put it into practice. I'm going to assume that most people would watch this video and want to be an ally to the autistic community because autistic people, perhaps just one autistic person, perhaps many. You've probably got an autistic person in your life somewhere, and that's where it's time to start accommodating to them. I'm probably going to make a whole other video at some point about how to appropriately accommodate to autistic people, but a few little examples would be, I'm not very good at being invited to things. A lot of the time when neurotypicals invite people to events, it's very offhanded and very you can come if you want, oh, we're doing this thing. Autistic people ain't gonna pick up on that. Extend a direct invite to us, hey, we're doing such and such, we want you there, are you coming? Things like that. If you haven't hung out with your autistic friend in a while, it might be because they didn't know you wanted to hang out. It's just not that obvious to us, it happens. And obviously that's quite a light-hearted and nice one. But also things like making sure that if you're going to go somewhere super busy with your autistic friend, you're not going to leave them to have extreme sensory overwhelm, and that you're going to understand what it looks like if they start to become overwhelmed, and you'll know how to actually help them, i.e. getting them out of the crowded place, helping them calm down, fidget toys, blah de blah. Things that you've just got to figure out and learn. And that goes towards communication as well. I've known so many autistic people where their friends have complained to me they never ask about my life, they never ask about how my day went, they never ask how I am. And I completely understand why as a friend that'd be frustrating. Does this person not want to know about you? Does this person not care about you? I get it. But at the same time, I really struggle to ask questions. I very much unintentionally have the mindset of people will tell me things if they want to, which means I don't ask questions, and that can cause a whole thing. That was an absolute tangent, I'm sorry. But it just, every single medical thing, every single widely known thing about autism is that one of the major traits is difficulty with socialising and communicating, and yet people still get so mad when we don't communicate properly, and that's a major accommodation. I just really want to push that one. We're going to move on to the next thing now, which is, as much as we deserve to be accommodated to and you should be striving to understand us, don't treat us differently. You know, this goes for anyone with any sort of disability. Everyone should be approached exactly how you'd normally approach somebody. And then if that approach doesn't work, it's time to switch it up and try a different one and maybe do something that you're not used to. But treat us normally. You know, like, as the number of people that know they're autistic goes up, the chances of you being around autistic people, like people actually know they're autistic and not just autistic people, massively increases. So chances are you're pretty quickly gonna learn that for the most part we're just people. Like, we've got a few extra things going on, our brains don't quite work in the same way as yours, but at the end of the day we are still just people, and there is no reason to treat us drastically different most of the time. Obviously, there are times when autistic people are non-verbal, there's times when autistic people may struggle to communicate. Autism's a very, very vast spectrum with a lot of diversity. Obviously, different ways of approaching people are necessary, different ways of treating people are necessary sometimes. But treat us in the way that's appropriate for who we are and how we behave, you know? And for the most part, for autistic people that you're just gonna come across, that means just treating us like you would anybody else. Now, number 4 on this list is one that's a little bit tricky, and that is to correct people kindly, just kindly correct others on things. And it's tricky because a lot of the time when I hear stereotypes or just general mistakes or stereotypes or crappy things about being autistic, it 99% of the time comes from a place of somebody thinking that they're very, very knowledgeable because their son, uncle, brother, nephew, cousin, niece, you know, somebody in their family or close friends is autistic, so they genuinely think that they know best about things. And a lot of the time they don't, and it can be very, very damaging, and it can be very, very offensive, it can be very hurtful to other autistic people. You know, like, some of the things I've heard said about autistic children is absolutely disgusting, and it's like, yo, I was an autistic kid at one point, like, this is kind of grim to just make sweeping generalizations. And it can be really, really helpful to have someone who's not autistic do the correction, do the educating, because a lot of the time they already have this view of me as an autistic person of being, you know, inept, let's say, being incapable. They already have this pre-assumed notion of they're not going to listen to me all that much. So having someone else do the correction can really actually make it sink in and get them to actually listen and be incredibly useful. So if you're going to be an ally, that's where you should be. That can stretch as far as having to correct like really negative stereotypes or opinions. And it can also be things like, hey, please don't use the R slur. And that's one of the things that I've had somebody do for me recently, and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I was like, oh, somebody like understands and gets it and accepts me, and it's standing up for me, and it was very, very nice. So I think it's important, and I think it's something that, you know, we should all be doing it anyway, but sometimes it doesn't feel that safe, sometimes it doesn't feel that comfortable, and having someone else do it who's neurotypical and who can just sort of stand up for the community can be very helpful and very nice. And finally, and possibly the most important, is to accept us as different, not less. I think Chloe Hayden is the person that's like sort of like brought that quote into the general public view. I don't know if she came up with it, but it's from her that I've learned it, and I love it because it's very much what I'm aiming to sort of spread here. Because, you know, being autistic, we are a bit different, and especially when it comes to like being a part of general society, it's very much like we've got some quirks, we've got some differences, and it can all sort of fit together to be like a puzzle piece, a tapestry. We can all get on, it can all be a good time. But we have to be accepted as being on the same level, if a different floor, you know, if you get what I mean? Like, same floor, different building. It's just a bit different. We're the same level. And I think especially because a lot of the time the acceptance that we can receive from people can be very infantilizing and very, I want to say demoralizing, but I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. It's just they accept us in a way of like, oh, poor little autistic people. Aren't they sweet? Aren't they cute? Aren't they awkward? Oh, it's adorable. You know, and it's not a genuine acceptance. It's not, there's just a lack of respect in the acceptance that they're offering. It's very, it makes my skin crawl. It's really unpleasant. It's very uncomfortable. It's very much a pity acceptance, it's infantilising. I don't know what else I can say in regards to that. It's very infantilising and I don't enjoy it and I wish people wouldn't do it. So yeah, accepting us as different, not less, is my final point. You can turn off here now, that's the important stuff out of the way. I'm going to talk for a little bit longer for no apparent reason, other than I'm a self-promoting YouTuber now. So, as always, I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments. I'd like to know what you think, what your thoughts are, how you feel about this one. If there's been any times that someone's been a really good ally for you as an autistic person, any times that you think you've been a good ally, yeah, I like to hear about things. I like to know what's been going on. And of course, because I'm a self-promoted YouTuber now, you can also follow me on different social medias. You can subscribe and like this video. That'd be lovely if you did. And from now, you'll be seeing my new little end screen that's here so that you can see my Patreons and my YouTube members. It's a little shout out for them. So that's here, that's them. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. I really wasn't sure if anyone would, and it really excited me that people have. So I'm providing little bits of extra content to these people and they're providing me with money to buy food. It's a lovely time. But for now, I think that's all I've got to say in this video. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year. And I will see you again in a couple of days.